going today be proving lines are parallel. I'm not going to tell you they're parallel anymore. We're going to prove they're parallel. So guess what we're going to be doing? We're going to be using the theorems backwards. And it's called the converse of them, but that's okay. Okay, if two lines are not parallel, this is just something to think about. You don't need to write this down or anything. Can corresponding angles be congruent?
Yeah.
So if two lines are not parallel, so let's look at if I look at T and M, those two lines are clearly not parallel, correct?
No.
No, they look parallel to me.
Okay, helpful comments?
Okay.
Okay, T and M are clearly not parallel. So if I start looking about the corresponding angles and how that would work, well, let's see. If I got, here's T and here's M and this, so this would be my transversal, correct? So that would mean angle 1 would have to be 120 degrees.
Sure.
And there's nothing that can tell me about, right? No, we're just thinking about that. It's not on your notes. Okay, so what it says is, since L and M are parallel, angle 1 is 100, since L, right here, and M are parallel, angle 1 has to be 120 degrees, yes? Everyone get that?
Yeah.
Okay, but now if I switched it to T and M, angle 1 is clearly larger than 120 degrees. Because it was 120 degrees to the dotted line. And now I've got this extra. So is it going to be bigger than 120 degrees? Yeah. And so angle 1 and angle 120 are corresponding, but are they congruent? No. So what the question was, if two lines are not parallel, are corresponding angles congruent? No, they're not congruent. So if they are congruent, does that make the two lines parallel? If the corresponding angles are congruent, can we make the transfer that the lines are parallel? Yes, because I just showed you if they aren't parallel, they're not congruent. So that's kind of what we're doing today. So the first one says the converse of the corresponding. Converse means the opposite direction. So we said before, if two lines are parallel, corresponding angles are congruent. Okay? So the converse says if corresponding angles are congruent, the two lines are what? Parallel. So I just said the same thing but backwards. Okay? So if two lines in a transversal form corresponding angles that are congruent, then the lines are parallel. This is what, if you have a highlighter, that's what it says. And in your box, what does this statement mean right there? That L and M are what? Parallel.
Can I write my L a different way?
That should be written cursive since it's a line. And if you don't, how else would you write it? Because it would look like a 1. You can't use a capital letter for a line. A capital letter is for a plain only.
I don't know how to do cursive.
It's a cursive L. A cursive L is like this.
Well, that's
It's a tall cursive E.
We highlight the whole thing.
No, the whole thing is on there. Oh, yes. Okay, so yesterday, day before, if two parallel lines were parallel, corresponding angles were congruent. Yes?
Yes.
Today, if corresponding angles are congruent, then the two lines are what? Parallel. It's the converse, opposite direction. It's an if and only if statement, if you will, but you don't know what that is yet. So if I want to prove two lines are parallel and I show that the two corresponding angles are equal, did I just prove that they're parallel? Yes. Okay, the next one. The converse of the alternate interior angles theorem. So don't look at it yet. What did alternate interior angles? If two lines are parallel and you had a transversal, alternate interior angles were what? You can look at your notes. Alternate interior angles were what? Not these notes, the last notes. If two lines were parallel and you had a transversal, Alternate interior angles were what? They were what?
Congruent.
Congruent. So we're going to say the backwards of that.
Non-congruent.
If two lines in a transversal form an alternate interior angles that are congruent, then the lines are parallel. So this time we're using the angles to prove they're parallel, not the parallel to prove that they're congruent. And our symbol for that just says if L and M, if these curves mean these two angles are congruent, yes, for 1 and 2. So we just say that L is parallel to M. Yeah, I was like, how can they do examples? I don't even know how to do examples with this.
So, will this be our homework's gonna be over this stuff?
Yeah, your homework is going to say, are these two lines parallel?
No, I got a question.
That's all?
When's our homework gonna be due?
And then you just put that stuff like the writing?
Like you have to say which alternate interior angles are congruent, so the lines are parallel. You're going to use these to prove that lines are parallel. Or not parallel. Right? You can prove they're not parallel also. What do you mean when homework is
Like, do we have to scan it and send it to you tomorrow? Or
No,
do it
Monday.
Okay,
Monday.
good.
Okay, 'cause
That we just did that once to practice, and half of you didn't do it, so half of you didn't get those points. So
what was my?
okay, does everyone have this?
It's a week.
You know.
I don't care if it's a weekend or
Oh,
not.
honey. Sorry.
Okay,
You actually.
so now we have same side interior angles. So we're gonna look back at in our brain or on our notes, our old notes, and it said if two lines were parallel with a transversal, the same side interior angles were what?
Supplement.
Supplementary, meaning they added up to 180. Yes? So the converse is going to say if two lines in a transversal form same side interior angles that are supplementary, then the lines are what?
Parallel.
Parallel. So you just put L is parallel to M.
Well, we have to do more work on the homework than that. Or just write
You're gonna have to prove that you'll have to say they're supplementary, congruent, whatever, and then you may have to do some addition or whatever.
Do you want
But
us
then
to
you'll have to say
highlight
these. If you want to highlight this, this would be what you need to highlight
the whole thing? The whole
Yep.
thing, and for the second one as well.
because on this one it is. It's not. You know what I mean? This one's not just part of it. Okay, now alternate exterior angles. Okay, so before today, in the last section, two lines are parallel. You had a transversal. Alternate exterior angles were what? Congruent. So now we're going to say if we had two lines and a transversal and the alternate exterior angles are congruent, then the lines are what? Parallel. Do you see how we're just switching it around? Before they were parallel, so we knew they were congruent. So now if we know they're congruent, we know the lines are parallel. Got one more? Or two more?
2 more. 3 more.
3 more. Whoa. Okay. This one says if two lines are parallel to the same line, then they are parallel to each other. Isn't that the transitive property? If A equals B and B equals C, does A equal C? That's the transitive property, correct?
Yeah.
Yes. And so it just says if A is parallel to B and B is parallel to C, then A and B are what? Or A and C are parallel. Or however you want to write. And I should have put parallel instead of equal here. That would have been my I can't talk. I cannot talk to. So if A is parallel to B and B is parallel to C, then A is what to C? Parallel. Just the transitive property. I going too fast? Okay, the next one. If two lines in the same plane are perpendicular, what does perpendicular mean? They meet at a
90-degree angle.
90-degree angle. Okay? So on this picture, real quick before we go on, this angle right here is 90 degrees, but what are the other three angles of that?
90
Also 90 degrees, correct? Once you have one 90-degree angle in that transversal pattern, aren't they all 90-degree angles?
Yes.
Okay, you had one that kind of looked like that on that quiz you had yesterday, right? You had the throwing that in there. Okay, so if two lines in the same plane are perpendicular to the same line, then they are parallel to each other. So A is perpendicular to C, B is perpendicular to C, so that means we have a 90-degree angle and a 90-degree angle, so A and B have to be what? Parallel.
Parallel.
Does that make sense that they have to be parallel? Yeah. So a lot of these are just kind of like, yeah, wouldn't that be? Mm-hmm. There's not a whole lot to go with them. Oh, did you fill in your box?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's our last note.
Is that your last one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so we are going to put your notes away. You are going to clean off your desk with a pencil.